All right, today in this video, we're going to be breaking down a 16 Priory of the Sacred Flames, everything we did right, wrong, and everything in between, and just really nerd out about the run. Now, I'm going to have any information about the run linked below. I'll have my route down there along with the Raider IO Permalink and my talents. So if you're interested in seeing any of that, there's nothing crazy standoutish about our, I guess my talent build specifically. I'm running a very average Brewmaster build for what the top players are running, so nothing too surprising there. Anyways, getting into it, we are running Outlaw Rogue, Fury Warrior, Arms Warrior, and Feral Druid. This composition has been really strong lately. We swapped out one of our warriors for a Feral Druid, which has been really rounds out the composition. Anyways, we're going to be dragging the first 4 footmen into the right-hand knight. And the single sharpshooter, the interesting thing about these sharpshooters is they have a limit on their range, on their attacks. It's about 30 yards. So if you actually pull that pack and then run back a little bit, it'll follow you. So you can control a little bit. And then what I do is I just ring a piece it in. Anyways, we have leg sweep set for the first defend cast and then blind set for the second defend class, and that's going to basically nullify that mechanic completely. Defends reduce the target's or the enemy's damage taken by a significant portion, but if it's stopped, it makes them take more damage for a little bit of time, and that first happens at 50% health. So if you're cleaving everything down nice and evenly, you can just use 1 CC, but you kind of want to make sure they all are getting cleaved down fairly evenly. So when you land that AoE, you're stopping as many defenses as possible. We did commit less to that pull. Notably, in terms of defensives, I used Fortifying Brew, both as a defensive and an offensive to get a little bit extra threat through special delivery, and I also committed my Ringing Ritual Mud. When that pole dies, this is when this third, or I guess the second patrol is walking into us. That's kind of the timer that we're on, is basically we need the first knight to die before the second one gets to us. When you're playing with bigger uncapped AoE damage, like an Unholy DK or an Elemental Shaman, you can definitely pull Double Knight if you want, but your healer has to be really, really strong. But this is the route that we're currently settling on, and it's actually pretty good. So next we're going mini boss into triple footman. The pull's not going to get too much bigger than this. I could commit a lot of defensives here and pull a little bit larger, but our route isn't going to need it. So same thing here. Footmen, when they hit 50% health, they're going to cast their defend. And when that happens, we're going to, again, our CC order is generally set up to be leg sweep into blind, into shockwave, into roar. If we ever need more than 4 CCs, we're probably doing something wrong. Anyways, here's a triple defend because we cleaved them all nice and evenly. And sometimes when you get knocked into this corner, Suleiman decides to try to pathfind up the stairs to get to you and then run back. If he does that, don't worry too much about it. We're just using this wall to prevent the shield slam knockback. Now, Monk specifically can counter it with focused gameplay by just like rolling and dashing or transcending back on every knock. But now that this shield slam goes off, it's now on cooldown for a couple of seconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this guard captain up the stairs. Now, what this does is when we summon Chainmail, she's going to run to his body, which is now at the top of the stairs. So we're going to be able to pull her at any points to get her into the route. But we're going to be handling this patrol first just to clear some room. Trying to do her up here with this patrol still active is kind of difficult to do. This patrol is also pretty scary, so you don't really want to pull Chainmail in unless you have really big cooldowns from your group. We're playing a pseudo like Zug comp, and what I mean by that is like we don't have like crazy big CDs that are it's going to do like 30 mil DPS. We're just kind of zugging through. 6 targets is our specialty, so we're just going to keep cleaving it down. The big focus here is going to be the Knight. The Knight does that disrupting shout, big AoE damage. Be fairly careful. If you can optimize your cleave a little bit, sharpshooters definitely want to die because the footmen and the one priest don't really pose too much of a threat. Once that pack dies, we're going to be doing double caster here. This is a pull that I have mixed up a little bit. I have pulled Chainmail in first to a 1 set of caster pack, which has actually gone kind of okay. So I'm still experimenting with this portion of the route. I just don't know the best pull cadence, and as you can see here, this pull can be dangerous. Our druid got targeted by like 3 casts plus the purification beam, which can be really scary. Now he could have melded. When we kind of looked back and watched the route back and was like, okay, where can we improve? This was one point, was like, you had Shadow Meld, so that could have happened there, but luckily he wasn't in his CDs when he died. They just came up now, so we didn't lose too much damage from that death. We just lost a little bit of time. Now that it's just the light spawn, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start looking at the patrol and where Chainmail is behind me. Based on where Chainmail is, or the patrol is guarding Chainmail, I have to like pull in these 2 footmen just to keep us in combat for a little bit, just so we maintain momentum through the key. As soon as that burst of light dies, I'm going to be tagging Chainmail here with Crackling Jade Lightning and provoking her over eventually. Here she comes sprinting. The lunging strike will have her leaping. We're going to spread out. Pretty good job by CL. He was able to bait out there and then grapple right when the leap happened. You can avoid the lunging strike by moving with fast enough movement speed. So there's the leg sweep. We also blind overlap, but that's okay because we should kill before the next cast. Chainmail is really annoying to deal with. 18-second bleeds are not fun. I actually did like a little rant about this in a previous video. I think they should make bleeds a effect that does a little bit more damage up front, and then if that player gets topped, similar to like Grievous or similar Grievous type effects, it removes the dot. I think that would add a lot more interesting play from people. So if Blizzard ever does that, I would be very, very happy. Unfortunately, CL tried to bait out there, but then ended up cleaving me. The bleed on me is not too difficult to manage. I have Raining Ritual Mud as well. These pulls are very tame. As you can see, it's only 3 targets. I'm going to eventually pull in this Sharpshooter. I thought I tagged it, but I didn't. So I'm going to run back out and tag it again with Crackling Jade. And then we're going to try to LOS it to get it somewhat stacked up. Now, the thing about the Sharpshooters is they always will like not randomly, it's not a set timer, but they'll disengage at a player. And if all the players are stacked near melee, they're going to stay in melee like you see here. And so now what we're doing is we're waiting, because this is a really important point in the dungeon. This mini boss, if you pull her right as she finishes this inner fire cast, it bugs her out. And I'm going to show you what that does. So it'll pull all the neophytes. She'll then cast Reflective Shield. But for some reason, this makes it so she'll never cast Reflective Shield again. I don't know what the interaction is. I don't really understand it, because like when you pull it, she's just delayed for a second. And I don't know what that does to her cooldown or maybe her spell cadence. But basically, instead of going like, 5 Holy Smites into a Reflective Shield again or whatever it is, she's now just like spamming Holy Smite. And so this does a couple of things. It makes her easier and more predictable to move, because we know that every time she does cast a spell, it's going to be Holy Smite. And it also makes it so we don't have to chew through a 30% health absorb 2, 3, 4 times before we kill her. So as you can see, she is plummeting down in health. I don't know if Blizzard will ever fix this. So you pull right after the inner fire finishes its cast. But basically, yeah, if Blizzard ever fixes this, it's going to suck, because there's a reason people do this. It's a massive time sink to try to damage their shields. But basically, we got her to a point where now Dune Maul, the last mini boss we're going to be dealing with, is going to run basically right to us, which is super convenient, because he's just going to come in. Our Shaman's going to get the kick. These guys are all stacked. Unfortunately, they're kind of right at the edge of this Flame Strike. You kind of want Flame Strikes to go off because they don't do any damage and they're avoidable, but it can create a little bit of an annoyance with, free space you have to move around. But that really doesn't matter until Dual Maul. Did I say Dune Maul earlier? Until Dual Maul basically casts his Firestorm, or Ember Storm, which is happening right now. Now we don't do this super well. We should have stacked up and moved in one direction as a melee stack. We kind of did a weird split thing and made a horseshoe, and then we had to back out for a second. It's not super great for uptime. So realistically, if you're trying to optimize here, plant on your tank. It's just a good reference point because they're generally marked. Like I'm marked with blue right now. And then we're all going to move left on this next Ember Storm here. So you're going to see us attempt to execute that. Now, some of the swirls are random. Most, I would say like 80% spawn on players. And then the rest of them will kind of go wherever they want. So you're going to see a little bit of that here. We're going to just keep moving in a circle. See one's spawned right in front of us. We just move a little bit faster. Unfortunately, our rogue kind of got baited out, but all good. And now we're going into boss. Now, this boss can be really scary for tanks. I think I'm super comfortable with my healer, or my healer is super comfortable with the damage that I take during this fight, because he does a very good job healing me up. I did a key last night with a Disc Priest, and it didn't go as well. I definitely died with a defensive available, but I didn't feel like I should have needed to use the defensive there, so I went back and rewatched that footage, and I think there's things that both parties could have done, but the rest of Shaman healing on the Brewmaster on this fight in particular is really efficient, and it's really effective due to our Celestial Fortune. The idea is you want to use a decent defensive every time there's going to be an overlap of mechanics. The bleed by itself shouldn't ever kill you. Your healer should be able to keep you up through that. But what's going to kill you is the Divine Judgment overlapping with the bleed, which you just saw there. I took a ton of damage. You're also going to see a lot of damage come out when it's a bleed with the Holy Radiance. Well, Holy Radiance is like AoE, just kind of passive group, not passive group damage, but it's group damage. It does add on top of the bleed, on top of the auto attacks, which is generally a bigger pain point. So here I've already committed Dampen Harm. Now part of the theory here, or my reasoning for using Dampen Harm, is I need to look at the fight realistically and be like, we're a minute into the fight, the boss is about half dead, but we've already sent CDs. So the fight's going to live for about a minute and a half longer, and I'm going to want my 2-minute cooldowns up for the next pull. It's going to be my same logic here with Fortifying Brew. I'm going to do my best to not use Fortifying Brew because the next pull is going to be massive. And if I don't have all my CDs as a tank, I'm going to die. So right now this fight is a balance between staying alive and making sure I have stuff to live the next pull. Now we're very fast in this run. A discussion we had actually before, like at this point in the key, we were actually talking. We were like, do we need to pull big to time this key? Like, could we just play it safe? We made the decision to pull big. I think it was the right decision because we only ended up having like a minute left on the key. I don't think there's a world where we wouldn't pull big. I think it just has to be done in this key. And it's a big reason why we actually swapped from the Fury Warriors to Arms and Feral. Is because they really benefit from those big pulls, and they make these pulls go so much faster. So right now I'm thinking like, okay, now I have Diffuse Magic, which is going to be good. I have to sit on that. I have Fort, but I need to sit on that for the next pull. And I have Combustible Bomb Suit, which I'd like to sit on. I have a Celestial Brew coming up. It's at 6 stacks, so it's going to be pretty beefy. But I'd like to try to have everything, and then I have Dampen coming up in about 20 seconds. So I'm going to have it a little bit later. So I'm going to start the pull with like a Trinket, Fortifying Brew lasts for 15 seconds, and then I'm going to be able to go into Dampen Harm. So we have everything set up except Fortifying Brew, but we're going to have Black Ox Brew in 5 seconds. So we're feeling fairly good. We're going to make sure we're getting Threat on the Paladins. I'm going to then pop Combustible Bomb Suit. I'm going to roll in, Spinning Crane Kick to get at least a tag, and then we're going to kind of meet them all in the middle of all 3 packs, and we're going to use Exploding Keg to get threat, as well as to give us immediate dodge for the next couple seconds before I can get some CDs rolling. I now have a full stack of Celestial Brew. We're feeling good. I'm going to be hitting that shortly. Our Warrior ripped threat, I think, on the caster, which best case scenario if they get on the kick, because the caster's just going to cast and it's not a big deal. I now commit Dampen Harm that just rolled up. I also committed a Ringing Ritual Mud Trinket. I'm now attempting to apply Empowered Breath of Fires through Blackout combo. So making sure I have that extra 5% DR here, which I just do there. And then I still have Health Pot and I still have Diffuse Magic, Fortifying Brew is rolling. So I'm on a time crunch now. That's all my defensives. I have Diffuse Magic for the next Sacred Tolls, which are coming out now. So I pop Diffuse. I now have a Celestial Brew that's all stacked up. But outside of Health Pot, I am probably dry here. Now, notably, we went to the right. The right has 4 Paladins total. If we went to the left, we'd only be dealing with 3. So basically the idea is if you go to the right, it's more on your healer and your group to stay alive. If you go to the left, it's more on your tank because there's going to be quad Templars. Templars do the most tank damage. So we went that way because we still had access to Link Rally. We've planned for this. There is a world where we go left first with double or quad Templar, but man, that pull is just scary. So yeah, that's how you do the big scary pull there. And then the rest of this area, because we just saved so much time by doing a triple, we're going to be able to take this next area fairly slow. So our idea is like kill casters, get the paladins low enough so that we can kill them before their next Sacred Toll that's queued, and we should be good. Now this pull in particular only has 1 paladin in it. So like there's not a ton of group damage. Like yeah, we took a bit there, but it's like there's no other damage coming out in the group. So then I'm going to chain. We're going to kick Greater Heal. Unfortunately, our healer got threat immediately. Love healer threat. And now we have some casters. So what we're going to do is we're playing Pillar. playing Pillar here is really, really nice because what it does is it gets these casters down and off the stairs. But if your group is being casted on and they're scared after, like with Sacred Toll, they can just dip behind the pillar and cut off line of sight to act as like a way to pseudo kick. The caster is just going to recast on a different target and not really move unless there's no available target in line of sight. So if you move as a group here, you can counter a lot of the casters without having to kick. Eventually, you run out of room, though, to move around the pillar. You can either go back up the stairs if you like, or you can start landing kicks. Now we have double Paladin here. We're waiting for these Sacred Tolls. And then in theory, we could chain here. I ended up like holding because our healer was like, yeah, just wait. There's double Paladin. I was like, yeah, I'm waiting. And then he's like, no, like you can go, but just pay attention to the Sacred Toll cast. And then this is the last pull here. So this is just, this is one Paladin, double caster with the Templar. So now at this point, the only thing that's important for us to do right now is get it kicks. We don't want to have any deaths to an overlap between Sacred Toll and a caster. That's kind of the most, that's kind of like the lethal pain point here. So we're getting sweeps, we're getting shockwaves, we're getting kicks. They're coming back up and we're calming who has next. So I have at next orange, CL has next purple, etc., etc. So we're making those calls audibly in Discord, which is obviously a huge help. This is probably the scariest pack, or any pack with a Paladin and a multiple casters in it. So either of the stair packs are pretty dangerous. Not because of the Sacred Toll, but because of the overlap of damage. That's where that, like, quote-unquote one-shot's going to come in. But it's not going to be a one-shot from the Paladin. It's not like you have to have a defensive for every single Toll cast. And that's kind of a reason why this season is so good and why so many people are liking the season, especially at the high end, is that there aren't as many one-shots. Because, like, if this was last season, every Toll would be a one-shot, and you'd need a defensive for every Toll. And, like, that's how the game was designed. And now it's like, you live every Toll, but if another cast goes off, or if another Toll, or if the healer's on top of someone, then they die. All right, so this boss is pretty cool. I like this boss a lot, actually. I like the tank does a very good job on this fight, I think. Tettles did a video the other day talking about how you can bait the Castigator Shield. That has been fixed. So if you're trying to like cheese it so you don't get Castigator Shields, Blizzard has stealthily hotfixed it. We have been attempting it for like days now. We've ran several of these keys. He turns to a random target now. So we wait for Castigator Shield. I'm going to then triple pop this. Once everyone's healthy, I see Parkskin and Evasion, so I'm going to pop these last two. As the tank, I'm generally going to try to do all of the soaks. This fight is like free if your tank can live. It makes it so basically the only time people have to use their defensives is on Castigator Shield. And even then, Castigator Shield shouldn't kill you unless someone is popping at the same time. So the trick to this fight is stack up in melee. Everyone moves for the hammer, so they're in the same side of the room. We wait to soak until this Castigator goes off. So here's Castigator Shield. Then we're going to wait to soak just for a second. Everyone's healthy. So I'm going to have CL soak 3, 1, 2, 3. He's going to cloak. And then I'm going to soak these last two now. 1, 2, and we're good. What I really like about this fight for any tank, not necessarily just Brewmaster, is that Ring Ritual Mud benefits from the dot that you're taking. So you're going to be able to use this trinket like every minute, give or take. So it's very, very strong. In a little bit, I'll show you what I do on a 5-set by myself when I'm solo soaking. Luckily, having a rogue means that he can double or triple soak there for me and then cloak off the dot. So that pyre came out, but I made sure that I didn't soak right away. 1, 2. So it's roll into it, get knocked back, dash back into it again, and then roll again, and then we're good. That's generally the cadence that I do it in. But this dot is ticking down my Ring Ritual Mud trinket, which is super nice. I just used it, and it's already down to 1.5 minutes, which is good. And then I committed the bomb suit there. So another reason why I'm able to do all the soaks is because, well, I'm playing double defensive trinket. So while everyone's out there, everyone has defensives active. This is like the biggest overlap in the fight. It's like a 5 Castigator into 5 Sacrificial Pyre. I soaked 2, and I'm waiting for my dot to drop. And so now I have 10 seconds to soak this. Our rogue ends up soaking one of them because of Killing Spree, because I tanked the boss too close, but that's okay. He's going to get to stagger that damage out nice and easily, but he's taking a lot of damage. And so same thing here. Castigator Shield's about to come out. We're baiting it away from the pyre. And then once our Feral Druid is healthy, I'm going to soak 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to commit Ring Ritual Mud, I believe. I should. Diffuse Magic also wasn't used on this fight for some reason. It's very good. I should have been using it. I don't know why I wasn't. And then there's always a point on this fight where you're going to be able to tunnel. For us, we've decided it's roughly around 1.5, but sometimes you have instances like this where the boss spell queues terribly and you have a full melee group and you can't hit the boss. So you're like, wait, do we need to soak? Luckily, Touch of Death, though, exists. So we're just going to touch him and move on. So right now we're going upstairs with at the 20-minute mark. This gives us 12 minutes to clear trash and the final boss. This is plenty of time if we're clean. So I'm going to talk about a few things here that I'm doing to optimize. Not necessarily that it's like the best and right thing to do, but basically what I'm doing is trying to open this door. Instead of kiting back, which I see a lot of tanks do, myself included, I used to tank kind of back out into the hallway we came from and then moved forward. You can just open the door and start walking up the stairs. There's no reason to create more of a gap to get to the next part of the cathedral. So we're just going to keep walking with these Templars as soon as the casters die. And it means that when this pull is over, we're able to just go into the next pull, and any of our melee DPS who value or benefit from being able to chain pull quickly are going to be able to keep high uptime. So for example, Adrenaline Rush, or a quick restyle from our Feral Druid and or our Arms Warrior, they're going to be able to keep a lot of their buffs rolling. So now what we do is we go double Paladin into the right-hand pack. This is the hardest pull in this area. If you don't, unless you pull like a triple pull or something later on, but what we're going to be doing is basically the rest of the doubles in here are all going to be super tame. It's like a couple of casters, a couple of footmen. But basically the reason why this is so scary is because you have Purification Beam plus double Sacred Toll plus random casters. This is easily the hardest pull in this dungeon. So the idea is that you want to blow up the casters as fast as possible. The reason for this is that any damage that they're able to do while just standing in the Consecrate is just going to kill your group, especially if it overlaps with tolls, like you're going to probably see right here. Our Feral Druid getting absolutely abused. He's getting another Purification Beam on him. We're going to commit the link to this. Another reason why this pull is really annoying is because the light spawn, which I'm doing here, I'm trying to drag it away really quickly, is that its Burst of Light will heal mobs. And luckily with quick, very smart tank movement, I was able to get that Burst of Light out of the group, away from the Paladin so they didn't heal. It heals them for like, I don't know, 40% of their health or whatever it is. You never want these guys to heal. It's a massive time sink, and it's obviously going to allow more group damage overall to go off. So right here I was a little confused because, oh, this is where our warrior died. So I tried ringing. Our warrior charged in and got instantly meleeed because I hadn't hit the light spawn yet. So we had a death here. A-okay, that's kind of my bad. I should have thrown a keg, but I was a little scared of the patrol that was right there. The patrol was in a terrible spot. We generally do this pull second because it's like a little bit of a cooldown pull. There's just one caster, there's one light spawn, nothing crazy going on. But this pull, yeah, it's like a little bit of a cooldown recovery pull before we go into something else. But yeah, I was just like a little nervous at the patrol. When it comes to defensives in here as a Brewmaster, there isn't like a ton you can do. Like I kind of just like chain my defenses when I feel like it. The big thing you want to pay attention to though is you definitely want most of your defensives up for the mini boss. So right here I'm going to ring that priest back. So what we're going to basically do for the rest of the dungeon is we're going to continuously chain pull. Now this has a double caster, so we don't want to pull a paladin quite yet until these casters are a little bit lower. And then, because the next pull we're going to go into is another paladin and a couple of casters. Or one caster, I should say. Now, normally we do this pull at the very end of the dungeon, or at the end of this room. So we were kind of deciding like, okay, the patrol's in a bad spot. It's going off to this side. We don't know what to do here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do our best to just kind of pull what we can. So we ended up, like, this is kind of free balling at this point. This is not part of our, well, it's in our route, but it's not like the way we want the pulls to be structured in this area. And the reason it's like that is because we're fast. So I think we're doing really well up to this point. We normally have the patrol in this spot on the last cycle, or at this spot when we were a little bit before, but I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. We are a little scared to chain because of purification, but we're going to chain the paladin low, and then I'm going to be able to ring a piece of the mobs away from the mini boss because we'd hate to accidentally pull that. We're going to basically attempt to focus down the paladin while making sure that we're locking down kicks. We have made the audible call to basically say like, oh, I have next orange, or I have the diamond volley. So CL and I were watching the volleys, and the rest of our party members are watching just any fireballs that are overlapping with purification. So we're really just paying attention to that. So right now it's going on chicken plus double fireball, but it's fine because he has astral up, and then that's kind of it. Like then the casters are going to die before they really get any more cast off, and then we're chilling. And so now at this point we have 8-ish minutes. Can I math? 7.5. We only budget like give or take 3 to 4 for the last boss. We don't even need 4. So we have basically one more large-ish trash pull. And what I mean by like one more large, we're going to chain pretty just consistently here. So the idea is that we're going to go in, get the casters kind of stacked up. Once these casters die, we're going to chain to a footman pack. And then once the mini boss dies, we're going to chain those footmen into another footman pack. So first thing I commit here was a Chromebustable bomb suit. We're making sure we're locking down heals. It was a good heads up play. It was a blind into a cap and now into kicks again. CL still has his kick, but mob should die. Blazing Strike does a ton of tank damage. As you can see here, that was unmitigated. I don't know what allowed me to live. Oh, I guess I had Fort up. Okay. I had a fake Fort Brew proc for that hit. Next Blazing Strike, I'm committing Dampen, and as soon as that goes off, I am now chaining into the Priest. We're going to get a quick kick into a ring, and then that ring proved to be fairly ineffective. Feral Druid got a nice kick there. It's good. Blazing Strike's coming out. I'm committing a nice big ring ritual mud to it. Then I'm popping Celestia Brew to make sure that I can live through just like the auto attacks and stuff, because I need to try to budget at least the rest of my defenses until Braunpyke dies. And then once Braunpyke dies, we should be good. So Fortifying Brew is rolling, and we're getting procs of it, so we're feeling pretty good right at this point. And the next thing I could do is I can diffuse. Blazing Strike does do holy damage, so you can mitigate it with things like diffuse magic. And then as these footmen start to die, I chain the next pull. Something interesting to note about these footmen is if they are stunned and they die, they don't do damage. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, when they die, the footmen in this cathedral, when they die, they do a burst of damage, and it scales with key level. So what groups have found out is that if they're stunned or CC'd, they won't burst. And I think you're going to get to see that in effect up here, or how we counter it. Basically, we just try not to stun them during combat, and then right before they die, we just chain stuns together to make sure they're locked down as long as possible, and we kill them. So Priest's going to go down, Priests do not burst, and then it's just these last 3 footmen. And this puts us a little over count. We're at like 100.5, but I'm not really sweating about that extra 0.5%. So here we go. We're going to go for a nice shockwave into a roar, into a leg sweep, and then we don't take any damage. So we are out here vibing. So something you saw there is our warrior pulled. You can spell reflect holy lights, her casts. So he pulled first just so he can get reflect. I just kind of chill back for a second until the first one goes off. And it's just to optimize damage a little bit. Through the rest of the fight, he's going to taunt reflect, and I'm going to just taunt back. It's not a hard thing to do. Don't expect Fury Warrior or Arms Warrior pugs in your group to do it. Don't expect your group players, if you play with a set group, don't expect your warrior to do it either. It's something for like the sweatiest min-max sweat lords of warrior to do. The damage does, it's always on the tank, so that's why he's taunt reflecting for it. And you can see him do it here again. It's getting him, like, it does about a little bit less than 1% of the boss's health. And it just speeds up the key by like fractions of a second, as long as he doesn't die for it. But this boss doesn't auto too hard, and her casts always go at the tank. But like tanks don't take damage, so like you can honestly just not kick on this fight, and you're kind of probably vibing. And of course, if you're playing with a Prot Warrior can also reflect and get more value out of it. So if you're a Prot Warrior player, feel free to reflect those Holy Smites. Just make sure people aren't kicking, or just tell your group like, hey, don't kick. Like, just let me reflect it. Now the blue world marker is down because you can use that location to port up to the top. If you're a class that has some type of leap, so heroic leap works. Our rogue used grapple, and then what I do is I'm transcend linked to CL, so CL grapples up, and then I port to him. And this allows it so we can just all port up at the same time to get some big damage to break this shield. We dropped Earth Grab at the very, very bottom of the hill. Unfortunately, it doesn't get all of them for some reason. But then what our shaman can do is he can then replace his totem with projection. And then he can reset his totem with recall and then reuse Earth Grab. So Earth Grab is very OP in this dungeon as a resto shaman. And if mobs ever do come in, like we got a second wave here, we're going to wait till they get a little bit closer. We're going to drop a nice little ring of peace. I was kind of like second guessing because we were like commenting like, oh, I have Earth Grab still. And then I was like, oh, wait, do I need to use ring here? But some of the mobs got through. And then we're chilling. So monks are really good at this because we do have access to Ring of Peace. It's better when you have the boss further back like this because, well, the mobs kind of will like funnel in, where when you try to use it on the stairs, you can only kind of get one side. Now there is a trick to get all of the mobs to go to one side, but it requires a heavier set range composition, which we clearly don't have. So we just do it like that. Casual reminder, those ads don't have a threat table. So DPS need to move away. And if you're a tank player, if someone's giving you shit about getting threat on the mobs, tell them to read a book. I don't know. Anyways, that's really the fight. Like this fight gets really boring at the end. Like it doesn't ramp up in difficulty. You actually have more room to work with up here. It's also like a little bit visually clearer because the first room is like just really like awkwardly orange and yellow. Or up here, the floor at least is like this kind of like nice, maybe not nice. It's like this pinkish white marble stone texture, which is kind of cool. Unfortunately, we accidentally kicked on the reflect there, but it's all good. And then boss goes down, so 106. At the pacing of our run, we did have 2 deaths, so we should have been around minute 30. Maybe we lost an extra 10 seconds from like the damage that we lost there, so maybe the 2-minute mark. Unfortunately, that 2-minute mark right now with our current gear probably means we can't time a 17 without a little bit more optimization in our route. There's definitely a lot of things we can improve on. Obviously, the deaths were a big part. The way that we chain pulls and the way that we gather pulls up definitely can be improved on a little bit. But I like this route a lot. It's really good for a physical-based comp like this that doesn't benefit from like the largest pulls ever. And while they might like large pulls like Arms Warrior and Feral Druid, being able to kind of zug through a dungeon feels very good, and it has a nice cadence to it. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the run. Hope you guys learned something. If you have any questions, of course, leave them down below, and I'll do my best to try to answer them. And yeah, I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.